Hello, welcome to Inside the Studio. This is Chris. How you doing, everyone? Thanks for checking in. I thought I'd figure out a way to communicate with everyone on a semi-regular basis, something that's other than fight predictions or fight reactions. Even though that's a big part of my artwork, I guess another part of this is that we're talking to each other. There's a couple people who I really enjoy. I enjoy their podcasts and their vlogging. And I thought I'd like to emulate parts of it. I never said this, so let's go through it. I used to be a huge fan of Bill. I'm a big fan of Bill Burr. I discovered his podcast right around the time that I committed to MMA as the theme to my artwork. I love his Q&A session at the end of his podcast, and I'm also somebody who just loves to give unsolicited advice. So if you ever have any questions about life, about growing up, about things like that, I'd be happy to talk about it. Another thing I like is Boogie 2988. He came across my viewing a couple years ago, probably due to a fat shaming episode. And I thought he had some real thoughtful words about what it's like being a person who's disliked online. And I'm not a gamer. I'm not into video games, but I enjoyed his his weekly rambling episodes. And I followed that for a while. Oh yeah, I'm listening to my kids. They're playing in the bathroom, so I'm gonna come there in a minute. I thought I'd see how long I could go. I thought I could get 5 minutes in, but we're about 2 minutes. Anyway, there was one other person I like. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a little glimpse into life. I spend a lot of time in a cafe in my neighborhood drawing. And people ask me, is that what you do for a living? And I say, yeah, I'm a cartoonist. And I got to say that it brings me a lot of pride, a lot of joy to be able to say that. Many of you, I'm somebody who posts a lot online. I'm on Twitter a lot. I used to be on RMMA every day, not so much anymore. But I realize I'm kind of an unknown quantity to most of you. I used to do some live events like the MMA Expo in Manhattan, and I've been to Vegas, and I actually really enjoy meeting people. I enjoy meeting the fans. Back when I had the Vice column, when I had my work on Ariel's show, and then now Bloody Elbow. But now that I have kids, I'm not outside, socializing as much. So this seems like a good place to communicate with people. And I thought a little bit about this, very little, that I would tell you a bit about how I ended up here. In 2011, I got divorced, and I was 32 years old. And I was a strange time in my life because I didn't know what was going to happen in the future. And that's the kind of thing that happens when you're an adult, and like the ground drops out from underneath you, but there's nobody you're obligated to. I didn't have any. The divorce was amicable. We had no debt together, and we had no kids, so it was a pretty clean break. And I didn't really know what to do in my life, and I did say to myself, well, I can finally be an artist. It took me until 32 years old to feel like, I'm going to be an artist. And even though that's what I had felt I was my whole life, but it was a very difficult thing to embrace. So I registered for a meditation retreat at this place called Vipassana. And it's 10 days. And you meditate for 10 hours a day. Excuse me. And I thought that would be a good place to kind of get my head together. And that's what I ended up with. So just messed your head up right all over again. I went there, and it was one of the more grueling experiences of my life. You wake up at, I think, 4:30 in the morning, and you don't speak, you don't make eye contact, you don't read, you don't write, you don't exercise. They ask that you don't pray. Not that that's not a concern of mine, but it is a major commitment. I didn't draw, and when you think about being, alone, free of responsibilities, that's exactly the time you think I'd like to spend that time drawing. But I committed to it. I committed as fully as I could, because I felt like, I want to get something out of this. I better do what they say. So I meditate for 10 hours a day. I stopped eating at noon. I went to sleep by like 9:30. I was up at 4:30. And maybe about 3 days in, I had the realization that, MMA was going to be a way for me to bring a theme to my artwork. I had been committed to a certain set of materials. I had used to do wood engraving and wood staining and burning. And I'd always wanted to do figurative work, but I didn't understand how to give it meaning. The idea of hiring a nude model and just drawing them or painting them, and that being somehow worthy of an audience, it didn't sit right with me. And then when I looked at MMA, it was all I watched at the time. Because when you're divorced and you're really, all your emotions are burnt away, it was very hard to find anything believable. Everything was laughable, except, people like who are having legitimate experiences. And, so with one or two exceptions, it was pretty much mixed martial arts. Was the only thing I could watch that was tolerable. And I saw, it was, not the nude, but it was pretty close. And it was watching people in these poses and making these motions and basically coming up with a new language, a new visual language. It wasn't, it was very much about the integration of the martial arts. And I thought I could be part of the history of the grand tapestry. I thought of it like a tree that had been growing and growing and growing. And finally, there was a branch that had extended far enough to make room for an artist. Obviously the roots and the trunk are the fighters and the promotion itself. And then the various branches, comprised media and other aspects. And it had to get big enough for someone like me to be a part of it. And then it, pretty soon after that, I think might have been right around the time of the Fox deal. And I set about working. I worked for about 6 months. And then I made a post on Reddit. I showed probably about, 25 pieces. And the most significant being the Anderson Silva, Forrest Griffin animation, and Middle Easy, I think, tweeted it out. And I think Joe Rogan tweeted it out. To this day, I've never seen the tweet, but other people have told me that. And Vice contacted me. They did an interview, and I pitched a column, and we're off and running. Thanks for listening. I'll talk more about this. If you want to hear anything, if you want some advice about how to screw your life up or how to avoid screwing your life up by someone who definitely took the hard road, let me hear from you. Take care of yourself. Talk to you later.